Hey everybody, it's Gary Vaynerchuk. Really excited to be here on Geoff's blog. I've got an email from Geoff, and we've known each other a long time. We had a little Twitter exchange. He sent me an email to answer some questions. I wrote back, can we do a phone interview? He's like, too busy. Even though I write books, I sure like to do video. I feel like the intent comes through a little bit more for me, so don't mind the scary voice in the back. It's Billy Toronto, my good friend. He's going to read Geoff's questions to me, and I'm going to answer them. So Geoff, I hope you enjoy this video. I hope it works out and you post it. If not, no big deal. I hope I see you soon, man.
Okay, first there was the TechCrunch 99.5% of social media experts are clowns statement. And now there is discussion about your book, The Thank You Economy, and how 95% of PR firms will louse up your community relations. You seem to have some strong 90th percentile feelings about consultants these days. What's causing your statements?
You know, I think this is kind of me making a mistake. You know, I've been thinking about this a lot. Obviously, I jumped into a bunch of different conversations, both on TechCrunch. A lot of people have written about this. I'm flattered that my voice has gotten to a place where it can cause such a stir. You know, I just think that I use slang a lot, and it's the way I communicate, and I think I've got to do a better job of learning that you just can't do it that way all the time, and I guess as more people are listening to you, it's being interpreted in a different way, and so I use 99.5 or 95% the way somebody would say most or a lot, and what I have to learn is that when you use a statistic, people take it as that way, even though in both instances I did preface it at some level, and there's context around it. I especially felt in the TechCrunch article, that was interview. There was a ton going around that, but I've got to realize that headlines are going to be taken with or within context. I'm not going to blame anybody. I think this is my fault. This is a flaw in the way that I communicate. What probably worked for me in reviewing wine and what makes me good on stage, I paint pictures, I use a lot of analogies. And I've got to become a little bit more cognizant of the fact that when I use a number, people are kind of taking it. I still firmly believe it. I think there are amazing PR firms. I pay for one, so clearly I believe in it. I think there are great social media people, but I do feel like social media is new. I do feel that people over push and over talk. I think there's a lot of nuances that aren't understood by me and everybody else yet because of its early stages. And I see a lot of bad work. And what upsets me the most is that I've been around long enough that I see friends or acquaintances thinking that I'm trying to hurt the space to help me. You know, VaynerMedia is never going to be big enough to change my life. You know, when you want to buy a sports franchise or make a big mark, client work is not what's going to do it. I'm not doing this because I want people to hire Vayner instead of other people, or I've seen a lot of those nuances, and those fish aren't big enough to fry. That's not the agenda. The agenda is to get the conversation going. I think I see a lot of people that are trying to make a quick buck on a space that I'm very passionate about, that I think is revolutionizing marketing, and I just want to get the discussion going, and it's what I do feel. I do feel like there's a lot of bad and average work because I think people get caught up in headlines, get caught up in the Mashable TechCrunch ad age stuff, and they don't use good business practices to understand what's going on. And so I stand by my words, big time. Maybe the numbers are even low, but I understand that there's tons of great work. I saw Jay Beer and Copyblogger and a lot of people jumping in that, I respect a lot of people's work. I do also think that a lot of people that are getting credit are very average at best, and don't have a lot of good business sense behind their thoughts. They're regurgitating comments and articles, and I don't think that's good for clients. And I don't think that is what helps move the needle, and that's kind of where I'm at. So it's a long-winded answer for the fact that it's a flaw in the way that I communicate, and clearly I've become aware of it.
Why is this generation of marketers any more or less crappy than the marketers that existed before social media?
They're not. And I actually think this generation's marketers are going to end up being better because they're going to be held more accountable by the data that social brings. You can't just put a billboard by the executive's house and he sees or she sees the billboard and says, oh, they're doing a great job, everybody's going to see my movie, right? So they don't. As a matter of fact, I have far bigger issues with the people that live on Nielsen's as gospel, or say, well, I don't get the lift that I get from TV. No crap, Sherlock. You spend $4 million on your TV, spend $100,000 on digital. You don't have to be a rocket scientist to figure out why you're not getting the lift. I don't feel this generation is any worse or any better than the one prior. I feel like it's going to be held way more accountable because there's going to be so much more data. We're going to be able to connect it so much more than we used to. Arbitron, radio stats aren't going to get you through the day.
Have you consulted others outside of your company? How did those engagements work out?
I'm not sure, Geoff, what you mean by that exactly. I've never used any social media strategy or consulting people. I do have a PR person. I've had a couple, so I do know the difference of good PR versus average PR. And I'm watching, and I think there's some people that really get it. I think media mix matters. I don't think this is just social media or PR. This is traditional media too. How many commercials stink, right? There are good people in every space. I still believe that the reason that I've been so passionate about social and community management is because I do believe that there's a land grab. And I think when you see a land grab, you tend to see lowest common denominator people in the mix. Ask some people that are now doing social media strategy if they come from the SEO world or if they come from the real estate world. I mean, you have people who are just chasing the next big thing. Social is getting so much hype. It's kind of like the startup thing, right? After the movie with Zucks and all that, every 19-year-old now has a startup and is raising $1 million, and they suck. 99% of 19-year-olds that do startups stink. Just kidding. The gist is, a lot of people who have no idea how to build a business are jumping on the next bandwagon. Those are things that I think people need to look out for. They collectively create bubbles that hurt everybody.
Who are some online communications consultants that you like?
I don't do enough homework on what everybody's doing. I can tell that on an individual basis, I thought Chris Brogan is the most similar thing to me. He engaged with everybody early on. I love Jay Baer. I think he's a great guy. But I don't know these people's work intimately. I can see it from afar. Jeremiah Owing, he's a friend of mine. Owing, I think has some good thoughts. I mean, there's people out there. Shiv Sai, who used to be at Razorfish, now at PepsiCo. I mean, there's people that have thoughts. There's smart people everywhere. I built Wine Library on never worrying about my competition, focusing on my employees and customers, and growing. That's what I'm doing at VaynerMedia. I don't even know other agents. I'm the worst. I go to dinner, like, what do you think of this agency? I've never even heard of these digital agencies. I don't know. The answer is I have no clue. I'm sure tons are doing it well. God bless. The reason I even know bad stuff exists is because when we have prospective clients that are coming to us and we're looking at the space, their competitive space, it's very obvious. At times we see very good work and it's obvious as well. It's not something I'm good at. I'm not quite sure. I named some names of people that I'm fond of that are looking at things in a smart way. Oh, you know who I love? Avanesh, the guy who spoke in Canada before me from Google, his analytics stuff. Avanesh I love. I think he's fantastic, but that's more data. But that's what I love. I love the data, and I love the Zen, thank you, economy, hard stuff. They're out there.
Kathy Sierra recently said on the Gaping Void blog that your work is great because you make others better. What do you hope the industry will improve as a result of these conversations in the thank you economy?
So that's flattering. Kathy's a big thought leader, and that's what's so funny, right? Like, I'm being cast by a very small 0.011%. I'm just devastated, and really the reason I'm taking time out here is, one, I like Geoff and met him very early on in my career and I want to support his blog, and I'm sure a lot of people will come and watch this continues that conversation. But two, I'm not trying to do bad. It's not in my DNA, it's something I've never done. Thank you, Kathy, for making that point. I've always tried to do good. I'm an East Coast competitive dude. I get competitive. I have my flaws, but my intention, my heart is really coming from the right place. Let me just say this once and for all, so there's no confusion ever. I don't need to put anybody down or hurt anybody because I'm going to get mine. I don't need to hurt you to win. I'm not one of these guys who needs to crash down buildings so I have the tallest building in town. I'm going to build the tallest building in town. That's how I roll. I don't need to hurt anybody. I'm always going to get mine. I can do my thing. I do my thing. So I'm not out here doing this because I feel like, ooh, if I hurt these people, I'm going to get anything I want, because that's how I roll. I just really love this space. I love the people I've met in it. I grew up in the wine business, and it's very obvious to me that this industry has better people in it. And it's not dissing the liquor and spirits business. It's just not. It's very obvious to me, and I'm very attracted to the kind of people that are in this space. And I just think it's healthy conversation. I like debating. Listen, I have business chops. I know how to build businesses. I'm good at what I do, I think. You don't hear me talking trash or calling out people for basketball or boxing or accounting. I think that there is a lot of amateur work being done in our space, some of which is now being accepted as decent. And I think if we're going to have a big industry, it's good to have these conversations. I feel like a lot of people have tried to up their game. I just want to, when everything's rah, 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 it's good to be like, but what about this, right? There's been a lot of bad things happen when everybody went all in on one thing. And I think there needs to be a healthy debate for social media because there's a lot of amateur work and a lot of the smartest people, C-suite people at big companies around the country and the world are engaging with some of these people that have some name recognition just because they have a lot of Twitter followers, and it's hurting the space, not helping. And I just wonder, and I'm excited to push the conversation towards more of a business angle, because that's the context I talk about. Forget about politics and life. There's so many things that social is going to affect. I'm in one little box, business. And Geoff, what I'm hoping to accomplish is that if some people look themselves in the mirror and say, yeah, maybe just regurgitating tech meme is not going to be enough, then I think I've done my job. And you know what's funny? Not in Thank You Economy and not in TechCrunch was I really trying to cause anything. What is happening is when you have a flaw in the way you communicate in today's world, it will be exposed. I had a flaw because I used these kind of percentages as a slang term, and I'm excited we live in a world where we can have a lot of grown-up conversations. In the PR blog conversation was great. Took a lot of shots, but I had a lot of great conversations as well, and I respect people who can give and take. I view myself as a give and taker, and what I really like to accomplish from all this is showing people that when you get kind of knocked down, dissed, attacked a little, called out, you need to own your flaws if you have them, and that's what I'm looking to do. Thanks, Geoff, for the opportunity.